St. Louis, where the news comes first. This is News Channel 5 at 5.
St. Louis is apparently now mourning the death of News Channel 5's chief meteorologist, Bob Richards. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dan Gray, and tonight for Rick Edlund.
And I'm Karen Foss. This is, of course, a very sad day here at News Channel 5. While the medical examiner has not completed the report, it appears that Bob Richards died at 12:30 this morning when he apparently flew his plane into the ground at Spirit of St. Louis Airport.
Bob was the chief meteorologist at KSDK for 10.5 years and is survived by his wife and young daughter. His apparent death leaves us saddened and asking many questions. News Channel 5's Mike Owens begins our team coverage now. Mike?
Dan, Bob's plane went down about 12:30 this morning and it burned on impact. Police say he died instantly, 2 hours before he was on the air as St. Louis's most popular weatherman.
It's 54 degrees tonight with clear skies and south winds 10. Tomorrow we'll see a mostly sunny sky to start. We'll start at about 54 degrees. So
That's everyone's Bob, giving a good forecast for today, his last forecast. At 12:30 this morning, Bob Richards died when his plane crashed.
The two witnesses that I talked to said that the aircraft had taken off, appeared to have full engine power, and also when they were in the aircraft was in a dive, it was at full power also.
Firefighters say the plane burned on impact and Bob died instantly. In recent days, he had been under great stress, signing a court agreement to refrain from contacting a St. Francis County woman he knew through his broadcasts. There is speculation that Bob committed suicide, but police say there is no note to that effect. A federal safety inspector says it's something to be considered, but he's never investigated a suicide plane crash.
How often does that happen, where you determine something to be an intentional accident?
I've been an investigator with the board for almost 8 years, and I've never encountered one yet.
Here's Bob in his plane last October. It was his great happiness besides his family. Eyewitnesses say it was not unusual for Bob Richards to be flying late at night. He preferred the quiet.
It was in a steep dive and what appeared to be under full power.
The crash demolished the Piper Cherokee aircraft, a red one, very unusual. Authorities are still in the process of identifying the remains, while investigators search for clues.
They either lost control of the aircraft or intentionally put the aircraft into a dive.
So far, police have found no suicide note, and while the investigators try to answer their questions, his apparent death leaves many more questions for us. Dan, here it is.
Thanks, Mike. It has been a very difficult and emotional day here at KSDK. We were stunned to hear that Bob apparently died in that plane crash. General Manager John Kennecke says he was in daily discussions with Bob about his recent personal problems. Those discussions did not include possible suspensions or termination.
We never discussed that with Bob. In our meetings with Bob, we were always supportive of his interest in continuing to do his weather at 5, 6, and 10. He was very insistent. In fact, he felt it was good therapy for him to get back to work, to get his mind off of his personal problems, and to throw himself back into his weather role. And in fact, even just yesterday, he was commenting about how delighted he was to have a group of children come in for a tour of the station and to show them through the weather area.
John Kennecke also says Bob had been upbeat about the future, discussing ideas for projects and plans.
Bob touched all of our lives, from the people he worked with here at Channel 5 to his countless friends in the St. Louis area who will miss him. Rain or shine, Bob always looked for the rainbow.
Bob came to Channel 5 more than 10 years ago. From the very start, St. Louis knew Channel 5 weather was going to be different.
Thanks, St. Louis, for making us tops in town.
His sense of humor and playfulness made him an instant hit with viewers. 2 years later, when Mike Bush came aboard, Bob finally found someone who could keep up. On the other hand, is Weatherman. Bob had several passions: flying, ham radio, the accordion he played with anyone who could stand it. But his first love was the weather, and he made it look easy.
Around for warming up, so readings to our north, like in Quincy, we're up to 48 degrees as of 5 o'clock because they have about 3 to 4 inches of snow on them.
During last summer's terrible floods, St. Louis turned to Bob, and Bob was there, not only with dependable forecasts, but with his heart.
The damage estimates are still coming in. They'll never be able to fully assess the damage for weeks, but obviously this is a great natural disaster. And who is there right off the top? The American Red Cross. And they're not a branch of the government, and your tax dollars don't pay for it. You pay for it, and I pay for it. How do we do it? By the 50 cents that you threw into the little canister over at the gas station today.
The flood relief telethon raised more than $500,000 for area flood victims. But closest to his heart were his kids, area kids who suffered from muscular dystrophy. Over the years, Bob helped raise millions of dollars for Jerry's kids. They, and we, will miss him.
Bob's family included his wife Kathy, his daughter Tricia, his parents, and a brother and sister.
We here at News Channel 5 also have fond memories of Bob Richards, stories that date back for years.
I think I'll remember a lot of things. The goofy ties he would wear with the Tasmanian devil on them. He almost always wore his tennis shoes with a suit. He loved his ham radios. He loved flying his plane. And Bob was a guy who really had a passion for the things he loved in life.
When his radio station license arrived in St. Louis, he announced on the 10 o'clock news that he was now licensed and that when he goes home, he's going to be on a certain frequency. And to my amazement, over 300 ham radio operators made contact with him that night.
And I can remember back about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, when he first got his private license. And he asked me to be his first passenger. And that's really an honor to be considered. It's kind of a brotherhood of aviators, if you will, and to be asked to be his first passenger was certainly something that I was honored to do.
One night after the 6 o'clock newscast, Bob came from the weather center to the sports office, and he said, we should go over to the hospital. There's a little girl who has muscular dystrophy who's going in for an operation, and her mom would like us to just come and cheer her up. She was going in the next day. And so we went over to the hospital, and we were only there, 20, 30 minutes. And she had the operation the next day, and she pulled through. And the mom called me up, and I probably called Bob up and said that she thought we were the reason that she had the strength to pull through.
The news is touching everyone here at Channel 5 very deeply today. We have had to deal with today's events as both a news story and a personal trial. And we've tried to follow policies we set for every story, including notifying family members before broadcasting a victim's name.
And we have received numerous calls asking about tributes, and as we wait for official notification, please know we will pass that information along when it is available. And in the meantime, we extend our heartfelt thanks to you, our viewers, for your many expressions of sympathy and best wishes. We will be back with more news in a moment. Okay.